And I had a very toxic relationship with my boss, and I just decided life was too short for that kind of a relationship. The people that hired me as a coach, and the people most likely to hire any coach that's listening, already know you. They already believe in you, maybe even more than you believe in yourself. When we started, I think the average cost per click for a LinkedIn ad for coaches is something like $7. We have it down to 75 cents. So we find that videos in particular, just the short 20, 30 seconds, are the most popular. Yeah, Ken Kilday, executive business coach of and owner of Leaders Cut. And what I do is I bring simplicity, clarity, and direction to business owners and their leadership teams. And we do that through two categories specifically. We talk a lot about their processes, so all the stuff business owners have in their head, getting that onto paper so everyone can see what that is, and then leadership, also getting their core values and their belief systems out and articulated so that everyone understands their why. And it just helps the whole business run better and reconnects them to why they started in the first place. And those are the kind of people that I work with every single day.
Love that. How did you get started?
Yeah, so the way I got started, I had been in financial services for 20 years, and that had been a second career for me. So I had started as a frontline contributor and worked my way all the way up to executive leadership in that 20 years. And I was leaving my role because I was a bit burned out. I had responsibility for designing, building, launching, and growing a brand new product, which is a lot of fun and a lot of work both. So, and I had a very toxic relationship with my boss, and I just decided life was too short for that kind of a relationship. So, I was hell bent on divorcing that and moving forward. So, right away when we announced my departure, headhunters watch that kind of thing, and I started getting phone calls. I started doing interviews. I had a couple of very interesting leads for similar roles in the same industry. And one night at dinner, I just said to my husband, Mark, I'm like, this just doesn't feel right this time. This doesn't feel like something I want to do. I don't know if I want to be on airplanes every week forever, that sort of thing. And when I'm into it, it's great, but I knew I wasn't. And so he's the one that actually coached me through, well, what aspect of all your roles, not just the function, but what do you love doing? And I said, I really have always loved developing my teams, like helping people understand what they're really amazing at and then unlocking that potential. That's the fun. And he said, well, there's businesses that do that. Maybe you explore that and just do your own thing. And so, I got busy and started, process mapping, or as he calls it, just a bunch of post-it notes all over the guest room. And I literally had a Sharpie and a pad of post-it notes and just started writing thoughts and putting them all over. And then I would walk away, come back and start to organize them. And that's how I came up with Leaders Cut. And and then, the scariest part of all is I launched. And the scary part was we had years ago, we had bought a tiny place in Sedona as sort of, hey, one day we're going to get to retire and this will be a great thing. We can just get away for weekends. And so we made this investment eons ago. And as I was about to launch the business, I was like, hey, so two houses, one salary may not be the smartest thing. And I came out of financial planning, so I wanted to make sure I did this right. And Mark says, hey, I can work from anywhere, so let's sell the city house and go live in the country. The product I had designed in corporate life, and this is way before COVID, was designed as a digital business. So there were no I mean, that aspect of the business was delivered the way you and I are talking right now. And that was kind of different way back then. So I designed my own coaching business that way as well. And we burned the boats, as they say, right? Once we came up here in Sedona and I launched the business, I wasn't going to have a corporate job because there are no corporations, a tiny town in northern Arizona.
Mhm.
Is Mark a coach?
He is not. No, he he's a process engineer for a blood center.
So he just
So
has a natural coaching ability, at least with you, it sounds like.
with me, yeah, yeah. We've been together 27 years, so he knows me better than anybody for sure.
Got it.
Yeah, and if
So,
you asked him if he walked in here right now, he would tell you he has no recollection of that conversation whatsoever.
but for you, it changed everything.
For me, it changed everything. It brought it all together and made it less scary and made it possible. And it kind of brought it from like a wish and a dream in the back of my mind to having my very own thing.
So so you said you had all these post-its. I would love to see a picture of this.
Yeah, I don't know that I
On
took any.
on the wall. And what did that first version look like for you uh, for your coaching business?
Well, the first version was I was going to mainly work with corporate executives, and I had framed it as people who were more like entrepreneurs, people that took the leaders who take extreme ownership, but they're in a corporate environment, sort of an entrepreneur mindset, but in a corporate environment, because that's what I came out of, and those are the people that I knew, and certainly most of the executives I've worked with that are corporate all have and do work in financial services because that's the world I knew. And that was that's traditional advice whenever, from a professional sales perspective, is starting with my natural market. Who do I know and where do they work? And so that's where I started. That first iteration was really designed around coaching to that specifically. But a funny thing happened on the way to me planning things. Life happens and unfolds a little bit differently. So even though client number one is corporate, clients two, three, four, and five were entrepreneurs. So that then naturally started to shift. Well, what do entrepreneurs need? And seeking resources and certifications from my side for me to better help them. So it was just kind of a cascade of things that happened that first year in particular. Uh, and some of the early advice I got from a coach was just jump in the deep end and start going. Like don't wait for things to be perfect. Don't wait for you to work everything out. Just get in there, get busy. And it was a sense of um, hey, I know and can help people more than I think I know and can help people. And so I just kept the mindset of I'm there to help and I can do that through good listening and the rest will start to unfold. And it has over the last 5 years, 6 years, 6 years. Over the last 6 years, of course, it has changed, but what hasn't changed is my desire and the reward I feel when I get to help other people.
Sure. So how did your offer change from first to second? Uh,
Yeah, um, I mean the essence is the same. The structure is more organized. So I had delved in early to EOS. I had read Traction a million years ago. Not really, but when it came out, and it kept popping up for people. So prior to Gino Wickman selling EOS into a franchise model, I was an EOS implementer way back. So it was the kind of structure that helps me help people. My in financial services, I still am and was a certified financial planner.
mhm.
So that kind of process for mapping out somebody's future and then bringing it into current action. I was looking for a model to do that for business owners and leaders. And EOS was the first stage in me developing a lot of what I've since customized for my clients. But that's the essence of financial planning is tell me where you want to be in 20 years and I'll help guide you in the decisions you want to make today to get there. Business is very much similar, right? That first essence of what do you want this thing to be? What did you intend it to be? What do you want it to be? And when do you want it to be that way? And then we can come up with the how of what that's going to be and the mindset and some of those things. And just like in financial planning, that sounds mathematical and it sounds very spreadsheet oriented. But people don't make decisions up here in their head. They make them in their heart and then they justify them in their head. And so that's true for business as well. Business owners do exactly the same thing, right? They think they're being illogical, but it's really down here in their heart. It's their baby. And what I help them do is break through that it's okay to let other people help raise the baby. And that's what we do in business coaching.
Hmm.
And
I
you
called.
mentioned, sorry, Dave.
No, go
Um,
ahead.
you mentioned that advice that you got from a coach early on about like, don't wait till it's perfect, just jump in there and start doing it. Can you give an example of something that you did that didn't feel perfect? Maybe it felt a little scary, but you just went for it.
Oh yeah, the first client's the scary one, because my first thought was, well, maybe I should just offer to coach somebody for free because I don't know what I'm doing yet, and I'll just practice and then I'll refine it. It'll be perfect, and then I'll launch the real thing. And again, when I did remarks like, don't give things away for free. It's worth something, so don't give it for free. And okay, so that first person that was showing interest, rather than my proposal saying, "Hey, I'll coach you for free," it was, "Hey, I'll coach you for this annual package," that I thought was a lot of money for an annual package. And without blinking, he said, "Do I write a check or something else?" And that was client number one. Like in his head, he had already hired me. He already needed me. He already needed the that support that comes from a coach, that safe space for
Yeah.
him to talk openly. And that was the scary thing. Was the first time I asked somebody for money was the scariest thing I've done, because I'd been getting a salary for a lot of years, and now all of a sudden I'm asking someone to write a check, and I'm the product essentially. So that was a big deal. That was the first mindset, positive mindset component of me having a successful coaching business.
Your first sale was an annual package sale.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I've never heard that. Good for you.
Surprised me more than it surprises you. Yeah,
That's amazing. How did you find this client? Who
I worked with him.
you worked with
Yeah,
them? All right,
we were
that's right.
coworkers. Yeah, yeah. He was my departure created um, a new opportunity for him, and so he hired me to help him do some of what I used to do.
That makes sense.
So there's a big component of that, but also I think it demonstrates what a powerful leader he is, in that he right away he's like, need some help, going to get the help. And at this stage in his career, I don't work with him any longer, but he has had his share of promotions. I'll tell you that. He is very much a sought after leader. People love working for him and with him and near him. So we were good friends at work. We had worked together a long time. And that comes back to the whole idea of a natural market, is the people most likely, the people that hired me as a coach and the people most likely to hire any coach that's listening already know you. They already believe in you, maybe even more than you believe in yourself when you first start, especially.
Sure, sure.
That's huge.
So how did you structure that annual package? Was it, hey, hourly, once a week, I'll meet with you and we'll achieve these outcomes? What did that look like?
Yeah, the first one, it was we would meet 4 times a month, and then uh, I've always made myself accessible, because I didn't want clients to take whatever they're paying and divide it by number of sessions and call that I'm X dollars per hour. Rather, I want them to think of it as access. Like formally, we will have a formal conversation with an agenda once a week, 4 times a month or twice a month, whatever the cadence is. But also, I'm accessible because things happen. And a good example was actually this last weekend. Two clients lost key employees, and they just needed a few minutes to freak out a little bit before we'll meet this week and come up with a plan. So that's part of that, having a coach as their safe space and that is accessible. So I've always made it formal coaching segments, and then access to me as needed. Nobody has ever abused it. Certainly, uh, uh, I help them with their communication. So when they're drafting either remarks they're going to give or email messages out to the enterprise. They'll run those by me often because I know what they want to say. I know the message they want to deliver, and we're just syncing up with all the other conversations. I have all kinds of templates and that sort of support deliverables. So that's all part of it as well. But I like to think of the coaching as much more of a retainer style, um, as opposed to in that model, as opposed to some dollars per hour. In the modern era, the way I'm designing and updating menus always is much more of a refined engagement with an outcome. Hey, for example, let's do a leadership overhaul. We'll take 6 months. These will be our monthly topics. This is what we're going to guide the team through. And at the end, they're going to be more proficient in these 6 dimensions. Being really helping people understand much more clearly what the outcome is. I want every coach to know that uh, a lot of times people, business owners are advised by other business owners, hey, if you want to succeed, get a coach. They don't even know what it means, but then they start calling. So it's up to us to make it less nebulous and much clearer about, this is, so what, we're going to talk every week? Well, maybe, but what we're going to get out of it is a lot of clarity, right? And the clarity is going to come because you're going to get it out of thoughts in your head and into the ecosystem that is your business. So that's sort of the cascade of helping business owners, my clients, get their arms around what I do in the first place. And that's what every coach has to tackle initially is how we explain to others in a really simple, digestible way what it is we do. What we get trapped in is the how. Oh, I meet with you once a week. Well, that's a how, not really a what I do.
Sure. So you mentioned that your customer number one, your friend, colleague was in corporate, but you moved towards entrepreneurs, whether that's by chance or whatnot. What changed between those two dynamics and those two niches? Is it just entrepreneurs? Is it entrepreneurs with missions? Is it a more niche than that? Or tell
Well,
me how that's kind of progressed since
yeah,
your
it's
customer.
it has progressed, and those first three entrepreneurs were men and women that I CrossFitted with. So I'm a CrossFit person. That is its own little ecosystem. We used to go to the first class in the morning, which is 5:30. So it's a pretty dedicated, disciplined group of people, and heavily weighted towards entrepreneurs because we all had to get the workout in before we worked all day. And that's how I found those other clients that were entrepreneurs, is they were all in my CrossFit class. So again, natural market, that's just where I found them. And if there's one thing any sort of athlete knows, is a coach's role. So they came into it pretty clear about what they wanted my help with in their business. And that's how I found them, which then gives me a track record. And then I can, parlay that into marketing towards the people I enjoy working with, and this is another, again, lots of things just sort of fit into place. And I would tell everyone to just let that happen. So I was at a networking event up here, and I sat down next to a business owner who owned a marketing agency. And he said, all of our all of our friends tell us we should get a coach. So I'd like to talk to you about that. And then I said, well, I have marketing questions. And he said, well, what if we just traded, right? You coach me and my business partner, and we'll do your marketing for you. So that was one of the very first relationships I worked with, which I couldn't have, if I had sought that out, I might not have found it. But just being involved in networking and that sort of thing, it just sort of unfolded naturally. And I have a coach friend who kind of had something similar happen. So that has worked really well.
So since then, has that partnership sent you more business and referred you more business over time?
Yeah, their marketing efforts.
Oh,
They
they
design a
continue to
lot.
market for you.
They're a digital marketing company, so they have built and rebuilt my website. They help with the content. They've gotten so good. They've gotten so good at content that, and they know my voice so well that nobody has ever been able to distinguish when I have written and when my key designer has written. They're that good at what they do. So, and them as a business, so that, they become my case study. Next month is 5 years working with them. So I don't have this year's numbers, but by the end of last year, we had tripled their top line with the same number of people.
Wow.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a great impact of coaching when, and again, it's like it the metaphor of physical ability of, they decided they wanted to get fit and they were willing to lift the barbell and eat foods that fueled them, and they got the result. So that's the piece. It's not the coach, it's the people willing to make the effort and do the thing, and they have and they do, and they're all the better for it. They're a much healthier business. So
I love those reciprocal arrangements. I'm a huge fan of like the barter economy, where when we have something to offer that we can do a reciprocal arrangement. So I've done a few of those myself, and so they've been very successful as well. But I did have a lot of hesitation about it at the beginning. So if you were to share some tips on how to make sure that it's an equitable arrangement and that kind of thing, can you go into that a little bit?
I think what worked really well for us, and what I would advise anyone to do, is we had a very open conversation about, if I had, if I were, what's the dollar value of what I'm offering? What do they need? What do I need? What's the dollar value of each, and does that work? Not discounted, none of those things. And I could do an entire podcast and blog on my theories of discounting. That said, and this is a way that I knew I was going to want to work with them, is they were very transparent, straightforward speakers, as am I. So I said, hey, this kind of a coaching engagement, this is what I would normally charge by the year, because we always talked in year blocks. You don't want to market less than that, or I don't know that you get any result. And they were the same. They said, well, that would get you this kind of a marketing package. Are these elements that you would need? And I did need those. So it has worked every year. And we're just about to talk again about next year. Every year we talk about what we each need in our businesses, almost separate. Like, it's not the same conversation. So I'm going to speak to them about what their coaching goals are and what they hope to achieve next year from coaching. And then once we not settle, but once we agree on that, then I will talk to them about the marketing efforts that I would like to see for next year and how that might tweak my plan. So we kind of do it in two separate pieces, fully transparent, and both of us feeling like we're getting what we want. And we always ask that question, is this what you want? Does this feel good to you? And that's how you know it's a good trade. I would think, if you have that little spidey sense that says, feels like I'm doing all the work, then just step back and have that internal conversation about why it feels that way, because it really should feel equitable. And especially in those early years, I had a lot of hours of coaching that I hadn't sold yet. So it was kind of a no-brainer of, well, yeah, I mean, I have the time to be coaching, and I definitely needed the marketing. They've also been, and we have been this for each other. They were my laboratory, which I wanted them to be. So as I've updated and refined my own coaching practices and my certifications, they're often the first one I'll go to when I want to adjust the coaching mechanisms. And they're all for it. They're all about it. They're the first ones that want to try new things.
Hmm.
It's very cool to have a laboratory like that. So,
Yes.
along those lines, what are some mistakes that you've made along the way, designing your business, improving your business, expanding your business, even with clients, like some things that you wish you would have known, or that you wish you could have done differently or you would have done differently now?
Yeah, well, I didn't make any mistakes. Said nobody ever. Um, er, um, I think there were more than a few times I was trying to get things a little too perfect before I launched them. Um, Sometimes I have, it's not a shiny thing. When I came up in business, I was often the products that I've designed were on the edge of certain technology. So sometimes I'm too early. And the mistake I made very early on was I jump onto something and it was too early. Um, for instance, I found a product that was going to help clients from having an electronic dashboard that would support my EOS efforts, and I chose a company that was just way too early. So it didn't work correctly, and it hadn't been fully vetted, and they hadn't gotten all the bugs out of the system. So my propensity to adopt technology early has gotten in the way. I've ended up wasting some money on those things. Um, and then I probably stayed a slightly longer than I needed to before it because of sunk cost, and I moved to the next thing. The other mistake I make is not trusting my own ability, thinking that I need another brand alongside my own rather than just having my own identity. Uh, I don't think EOS was a mistake for me. It really helped organize my thoughts so that I could build my own thing. But another distraction for me became I got involved very, very shortly with Vistage, which is it's group coaching, but it's highly organized. It's they have a niche and I'm not it. Um, so again, that's me not trusting my ability to do the thing, and then I get involved, and the business mind that in my background is I want to reorganize it to make it work better. I could have just done that in the first place. So I would tell anyone to before you jump onto a franchise or product or anything that is franchise adjacent, um, you might be able to do that yourself and without the monetary outlay. Those sunk costs early on were kind of like the mistakes I made. That said, I've also made some really good choices early on that helped me grow and organize the business from the very beginning. So that that happens too.
What were those good choices you made early on?
Yeah, it's how we met, which is CoachAccountable was the very first product I signed up for to help me run my business. I have been in financial services long enough to know I needed a form of CRM. I call it CRM. He doesn't, I don't think. But having some sort of basis for running the coaching business, and that's the one I found. And that has been consistent all the way through. In fact, I think it's the only product that I've been in from launch to now. So
Oh,
that was the smart choice for me.
wow. What so how is the business doing today? And what does the future look like? Are you looking to launch into different market segments, grow your team?
Yeah, where I am now, I'm at I'm at my new plateau now. So next year, what I'm doing in the fourth quarter is planning around an updated menu, tweaking elements of how I market and how I package what I do and who I focus on. That will refine in 2025 so that I then break through my current plateau. Uh, this year, I'm all about reading Don Miller's Coach Builder. I think it came out really early in 24. Totally into that. That to me feels like, and look, new coaches can use it for sure. Existing coaches can also get a lot out of it. I'm pretty early in the program. I think I'm only about 3 weeks in at this stage, but it's helping. The way I would say it to anybody is I have all the ingredients for my cake. What the program is doing is helping me refine my recipe to make it more of what I want. And so I'm using that as a mechanism to to fuel and organize my growth plan for 25. So my goal is to double in 2025.
Wow.
Certainly a stretch and certainly doable with what we're putting together. Um, I've always had the idea, and we've tested it, and we have one of having sort of a turnkey platform for independent coaches. So I don't want employees. I'd love other people who came out of my old world, not my specific industry, but who are in industry and would love to be on their own and have a lot to offer towards helping other business owners be successful. I'd love to be that platform for them. So we're designing an element of my business that they can just jump on. Um, now they could jump on and be part of my brand, but I also want to make it so that they can sort of white label their own and just get to coaching.
Got it. So you want to double in 2025.
Yeah.
Amazing. What do you think the two top drivers are to being able to double over this next year?
Yeah, it'll be able, the two drivers will be the menu update of what I offer in a way that people can wrap their brain around it that would make them say, oh yeah, that's exactly what we need. And the other component is part of that menu will also be a small business community, sort
Mhm.
of the thing I thought I was going to get with Vistage 4 years ago. Uh, so not that, but my own version of it that I think is really effective for business owners. It gives them a place to get what they need and give back into the business community, and that will be a big fuel, a big driver towards me hitting my goals. So maintain what I'm doing, and then that's where the new revenue will come from.
Sure. Love that. All right. Earlier we talked a bit about this, but what other tools are you using for your business today?
Yeah, I use, so I told you I'm in the Coach Builder program. That's one. I'm also a Go High Level agency owner. So still early in that, still designing a lot of the funnels. So um, there's lots of options that people can use. Go High Level is the brand I use. Super customizable. Um, and it does, there's a lot of flexibility to it, and I like it. And if somebody's going to jump into it, you want to be one of those people that that is naturally drawn into technology, not somebody that struggles with it. So I would kind of caution people if you kind of have that thing where you just like to get in there and figure stuff out. There's a million YouTube videos to help. But if you like just turning things on and having it done for you, that's probably not the ecosystem you want to live in. But that's the one I use. I will continue to use Coach Accountable. I think it's a really beautiful, sexy interface for clients. It's very easy for me. And just it does a ton of things that look really pretty. I love my Go High Level for just the marketing arm and my Coach Accountable for my client experience. It's just a sharp client experience. Um, what is
Where are you putting that community?
I'm sorry.
The community that you mentioned for next year? Where will you
Yeah,
be putting that?
I want to put that one in Coach Accountable so it has a nice look and feel. I want it to have that same look and feel that any other client would have.
Mhm.
That's my instinct. I mean, I'll take a look at what Go High Level can offer me. Um, but my sense is with what I've seen so far, I'm probably going to have it live in Coach Accountable. I mean, there's just too many of you that I know that can help me build that aspect. And that's, by the way, that's another piece of advice for anybody is um, there are plenty of really talented people, even if you do know tech pretty well. Something that I think I've done that has worked for me is making sure that I hire people to do certain things for me when they're better and faster at it, especially so that I can be coaching because that's where I shine and that's how I earn my living. So I don't want to take too many hours away from that. My learning style is I want to do everything once so I know how it works. I know how to ask for things, but I don't want to be doing that forever. Um,
That's a huge distinction, I think, between going from a team of one to a real business owner. And I don't mean to like demean anyone who isn't, but looking at where is your time best spent? Where is the zone of genius for you? And for a lot of us, it isn't in the technical stuff, even if we're good at it. Like even
Right,
myself being the background, like that, having Dave do my go high level stuff, like that's been huge for me because I can do it, but it's not where I want to spend my time and it doesn't bring
right,
me joy.
right. Yeah, exactly. I built a lot of things in Coach Accountable early because I had time. I built my first website because I needed to get it done and I had time. And I found a guy who I think his premise back then was I will teach you how to build a website from start to finish with no steps skipped. Awesome. And I think it was a 3 hour video that took me a week to watch, just because step by step. So I understand how websites work now. And I also understand now, so Mojo does, not Mojo Group does my website. That's the marketing company. But I'm probably a different kind of client because I set everything out. I write all the copy in the order that they're going to put it in because I know how they put it in there. I know how to, I've often, I'll set up the start of a page as a concept, and then the designers can just jump in and finish it up. So learning the back end has helped me be a better client when I'm using the professional contractors that I use because I know how to give them the information that gets things done much more quickly.
That's huge. Sometimes that communication can be really tricky if you've not done it once, trying to say, here's what I want. I'm trying to describe it and it's not landing over there with you. I don't know how to put this in words that make sense for you, the contractor.
Right, right, yes. Yeah, and just like I always knew they were going to ask me which websites do I love, which websites do I not love. And I always surprised designers love, for example, most people love Apple's website. I cannot stand their website. Love their products, can't stand their website. I just don't like it. It's just too extra for me. It just seems too um, over the top with like everything has to be super duper fancy and moving around. It's just that's the one I don't enjoy. So I always let people whenever the designers are doing that, they always laugh because designers always love it, and I just let them know that it's not me. Please don't put all that stuff in there. But I also know how some of those, I've found certain websites, I'll find an aspect. So how things flip and move and change. I'll find little segments because I know that that's a really particular design element that they can put in.
Mm.
So again, being deep in the business the first time, the one time, helps me ask for what I want much more clearly. My misunderstanding would have been if somebody said, "Hey, I'm going to design your website." Well, they don't write the copy. I have to write all the copy, or somebody has to write all the copy. I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't built my own website out of the gate.
Mm.
So yeah, and for anyone who's thinking of launching, you need a website. There's lots of ways you can get there, and it doesn't have to cost a fortune, but you need a website. People need to be able to find you. You need your own real estate. And I got that advice early on, and so yeah, I got Coach Accountable right, and I got my website right out of the gate, and some way to schedule. So there's lots of um, everyone likes Calendly to start, and that's where I started. Uh, but make it really, really easy to find you. Make it really, really easy to schedule time with you. Don't do the thing where I have to put my name and a message and then you email me back and we go back and forth. Calendly makes it easy. There's lots of other tools, but get one so people can make an appointment with you and it's easy to do that.
Got it. Are there any other podcasts or influences or influential books or mentors that have been really helpful over the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, outside of Coach Builder, I found a few things early on. I used I think he's rebranded since, but it was called My Coach's Coach. Had a ton of white label type of stuff. Um, there were a few of those that really helped me quite a bit. Um, I would say just rely on wherever your particular background is. So again, mine was financial planning, so I use those principles to sketch out, design, and interact. But the other component is you want to have really great sales skills, professional sales skills, because you have to be able to. I need to be able to sell a future that doesn't exist for you yet, and I'm going to need to know how to do that. The Don Miller's Story Brand is one of the most effective books at designing that story. Uh, the story that I tell about myself and the story that I help clients tell me back so that I can help them get where they are. That's where I would have people go to.
That's a great book.
Yes.
All right. So any other advice for coaches just getting started or trying to transition?
Yeah, you don't have to have it all figured out of the gate. Just get going. Just have a propensity, have a bias toward action. Right? It's never going to be perfect. And you know what? Yeah, that ebook that you're writing to get people to engage with you. The point isn't to have a perfect ebook; it's to get people to engage with you. So keep your eye on the ball as far as your content and deliverables don't have to be perfect. All you're trying to do is get people to have a conversation with you, and that's where the magic's going to happen if it happens.
Yeah, got it. You since you're doubling or aiming to double next year, are you hiring anytime soon?
Um, I will use some more contractors for sure, especially when it comes to designing the back end for the community group and that sort of thing. That's where I will hire or use contractors I have or know, but I won't hire any employees. I'll finally add a virtual assistant next year. I kind of again I use tech to leverage a lot of things. So technology essentially becomes a virtual assistant for me, but I'm probably going to need a human to help me out with some things so that I can make sure I'm as available as possible.
Sure. All right. Well, tell
How
us
about
where can we learn a little bit more about your business?
Yeah, you can find me at kenkilday.com is my main website. All the leaders cut components will be there. You can find all about the backstory, and yes, you can schedule time. I make it really super easy.
Love that.
how
Love
about
that.
for you're talking about as you double adding additional coaches for their own practices kind of linked in with yours on your platform. Um is that ready for people to talk with you about?
It is. It is ready for them to talk with us about. I do have one coach that's in there. So again, he's a little bit of my guinea pig. He's super flexible and easy. So yeah, it's ready to go, and they can talk with me about that. Same place. If they go to kenkilday.com, they can schedule a time with me, and we can have a conversation about what they want and if that fits in and how it would look for them.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Love it.
yeah, we can get them launched. We got the first coast launched in about 45 days. I think we can get that down to 30, assuming that we get the information we need. As you know, Morgan, sometimes getting people to give you the information is the holdup. I can get the work done pretty quickly. It's can you give me the information quickly?
Yep. And you would think that working with coaches, it's like, okay, we have deadlines and action items and a certain level of integrity, and still things go haywire and they don't come in when you expect and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Or and this it's just a human condition of I've been asking you for information for 2.5 weeks, and then you give it to me, and the next day you're like, so is it done? So my turnaround's not that fast. Yeah, that's just the human condition. That's how people are.
Totally.
Yep.
Is there any questions you think we're not asking that'd be helpful?
I think you got them. You got all the mistakes.
Putting you on the spot here.
Um, yeah, you got the mistakes, got what went well. Um, you didn't ask me if I cold called, uh,
Yeah.
because that pops up like a lot of the how-tos. I mean, a lot of these ecosystems that coaches join, all they're going to do is tell you to cold call. you don't need to pay someone to tell you to cold call. And if you want to, I mean, if you're really good at that, then go to Sales Gravy. Just Google Sales Gravy. He's the chief of how to properly use that avenue, but that's not the only way to do it. I have and I know how, and in financial services, that's how I first started. But it's not something I really love and enjoy. And some people really do. So, I would just ask every single person, like, what's the marketing mechanism that they're good at? And that's the one that I triple down on. So, relationship marketing, networking, referrals. That's where a lot of my business has come from is my relationships with other people. It's not just that I was in CrossFit. It's I had a relationship with everybody that was in the room with me every single morning.
Sure. And
So
that's really,
that's what I
yeah,
do.
that's really easy to forget when you're remote.
Mhm.
Is that piece, is there any other networking advice that you give folks? Like what else, the CrossFit was perfect, example. What else? Is there certain events you like to go to? Is it just going to your local community? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's what I would offer anyone who's networking is you should be involved. You should be involved because you want to be involved.
Sure.
If you're showing up with a business card shooter and thinking you're going to spray those all over the room and people are going to call you, it just doesn't work that way.
Sure.
So, and we all know who those people are. They show up to all the groups that we go to for whatever it is we're trying to do. They're just there to take, they're not there to give. So if you're going to use network marketing, then you want to show up to give and you'll get something eventually. It may not be exactly the way you expected it, but something always comes of that. So yeah, find the thing, the channel, the way that you're good and go there. I joined LinkedIn when it was first formed in 2003. So that's the ecosystem that we put a ton of content out in, and that's I've spent time getting better and better and better at it. So that's my channel. I know coaches that do really, really well in Facebook and other socials. Um, but yeah, it's just finding the thing that you're naturally good at and 10x it. Whatever you're doing, do a lot more of the thing that you enjoy doing, because then you don't have to put it on your calendar to make sure, oh, go to this thing. Well, you're just going to do it because you love doing it. So I think that's the trick. I think sometimes people overcomplicate, right? They treat it like a checklist as opposed to, hey, these are the things I'm good at. I like to do it and I'm natural and just do a ton more of that.
Sure.
The digital marketing agency that you work with, where are they finding success for your business in terms of marketing?
Um, we have had a LinkedIn in particular. So when we started, I think the average cost per click for a LinkedIn ad for coaches is something like $7. We have it down to 75 cents.
Wow.
So um, because I already had a presence there, we constantly A/B test ads, right? So we know precisely based on like which niche we're designing an ad for. We know whether to use graphics or a video of me or what have you. We know who responds to me. So a lot of that is data, but we are having a lot of success in LinkedIn in particular, and also some of our sponsored Instagram. And I have business pages for both. For both LinkedIn, I have a personal page for LinkedIn and a business page, and then I have a personal page in Instagram and a professional page. So we find that videos in particular, just the short 20, 30 seconds, are the most popular.
Got it. Is there a
Yeah.
certain topic you like to cover, or is it just ranges?
It's Dave, it's always tips.
Yeah.
My three favorite books, my three tips for communication.
Hmm.
It's always little, 3 to 5 things, nuggets. It's always nuggets that a business owner can see and take and use.
Hmm.
That's what resonates with people. Just a couple of really easy, tangible takeaways that they can go implement in their business and see some quick result. Because they're busy. I mean, most business owners, the
Sure.
first thing they'll tell you is they just don't have any time. Time, time, time. All coaches, we all have to learn how to coach money, people, time, money, people, time. That's what we coach to. We can say it 1,000 ways, but it's really those three things.
Yeah.
Ken, thank you so much for sharing about Leaders Cut, the journey that you went through transitioning from financial services to your own thing, mistakes, joys, successes, what worked and didn't work. Super helpful. And thank you so much for spending the time with us today.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure being on with you. And again, for anybody that's considering being a coach, if you just need a little pom pom shake from me, you know where to find me.